Hi, readers. It's Mrs. Turner. Today, I want to teach you a new tool or strategy for understanding your books better. Readers think about what might happen next to understand even more about their books. I'm going to read the story Frog and Toad Are Friends by Arnold Lobel, and while we read, we will stop and think about what might happen next. Keep a sticky note close by or just a plain piece of paper so you can mark the spot in your book where you are thinking about what will happen next. Today, we will read the chapter called A Lost Button. Here we go. Toad and Frog went for a long walk. They walked across a large meadow. They walked in the woods. They walked along the river. At last they went back home to Toad's house. "Oh, drat," said Toad. "Not only do my feet hurt, but I have lost one of the buttons on my jacket." Let's put a post-it note on this page and let's make a prediction. First, we have to think about what's happening in the story. Then, we have to think, what might happen next? Do you think Frog and Toad will play video games? No, that doesn't make sense in this story. Do you think Toad and Frog might go looking for the missing button? Let's keep reading and find out. "Don't worry," said Frog. "We will go back to all the places where we walked. We will soon find your button." They walked back to the large meadow and they began to look for the button in the tall grass. Great job thinking about what would happen next. You're right. They went looking for the missing button. Let's keep reading. "Here is your button," cried Frog. "That's not my button," said Toad. "That button is black. My button was white." Toad put the black button in his pocket. A sparrow flew down. "Excuse me," said the sparrow. "Did you lose a button? I found one." "That is not my button," said Toad. "That button has 2 holes. My button had 4 holes." Toad put the button with the 2 holes in his pocket. Let's put a post-it note on this page and make a prediction. First, we have to think about what's happening in the story. Then we have to think, what might happen next? Do you think Toad is going to find his missing button? Do you think they will keep looking? Let's keep reading and find out what happens. Frog and Toad went back to the river. They looked for the button in the mud. "Here is your button," said Frog. "That is not my button," shouted Toad. "That button is thin. My button was thick." Toad put the thin button in his pocket. He was very angry. He jumped up and down and screamed, "The whole world is covered with buttons and not one of them is mine." Toad ran home and slammed the door. There on the floor, he saw his white, 4-holed, big, round, thick button. "Oh," said Toad, "it was here all the time. What a lot of trouble I have made for Frog." Quick, get a sticky note. Let's mark this spot in the book and let's make a prediction. First, we have to think about what's happening in the story. Then we have to think, what might happen next? Maybe Toad will write a thank you note to Frog because he was so patient and helped him look for the missing button. Or maybe Toad will bake some special cookies and take them to Frog and say, "I'm sorry for all the trouble I gave you." If you want to find out how the story of the lost button ends, check out the book Frog and Toad Are Friends from the library. Don't forget, When you are reading today, stop and think, what might happen next? Off you go, readers.